The confusion begins before you have words for it. Someone appears who seems to have been searching for exactly you, and the intensity of their attention feels like proof of something rare. They remember details you barely mentioned. They text with a frequency that suggests you have become central to their interior life. They use words like destiny and soulmate before you have established whether you enjoy the same films. The pace feels accelerated, but you assume this is what it looks like when someone is certain. You have been conditioned to believe that hesitation is a form of emotional cowardice, that holding back is what damaged people do. So you interpret their urgency as health, as the opposite of the ambivalent connections you have grown tired of navigating. The initial explanation you construct is one of fortune. You tell yourself this is what you have been waiting for, that the years of disappointing encounters were preparation for someone who finally understands immediacy. You begin to mirror the intensity, because anything less feels like sabotage. When they suggest a trip 3 weeks after meeting, you say yes. When they discuss future plans that include you, before you have decided if you want a future with them, you nod. The speed stops feeling strange because you are inside it now, and from within a system, the system feels like reality. You notice small things that do not align, moments where their enthusiasm seems performed, or their interest feels like a spotlight that could easily move, but you dismiss these as your own fear. You have learned to pathologize your doubt, to treat caution as damage from previous relationships. So you silence the part of you that notices, and you continue. But the noticing does not stop. You begin to see that their attention has a quality of acquisition. They are not asking questions to understand you. They are gathering data to construct a version of you that fits a role they need filled. When you mention a preference, it becomes their preference. When you express a value, they claim it as foundational to who they are. This should feel like harmony, but it feels like something else. It feels like your personality is being scanned and reflected back at you with such precision that you start to lose track of where you end and they begin. The mirroring is not occasional. It is structural. You realize, slowly, that they have not revealed much about themselves that is distinct or vulnerable. They have offered intensity, but not interiority. You know how they feel about you, but you do not know how they feel about themselves when you are not there. What you are experiencing is not love developing. It is a script being performed. They are not falling for you. They are enacting a sequence they have enacted before, perhaps many times, in which another person is idealized at a pace that prevents genuine knowing. The function of the intensity is not connection, it is capture. By moving fast, they bypass the stage where you would naturally evaluate compatibility. They create a situation where saying no feels like destroying something precious, even though nothing has been built yet. The declarations of love, the future planning, the excessive attention are not expressions of feeling, they are tools of acceleration. And you are not paranoid for sensing this. You are finally letting yourself see what has been obvious from the beginning. The psychological inversion is this. What you interpreted as evidence of your specialness is actually evidence of your fungibility. You thought their intensity meant they saw something in you that others missed, but the intensity existed before they met you. It is not a response to who you are. It is a need they carry, and you happened to be available when that need reached a threshold. You were not chosen for your qualities. You were chosen because you were present and receptive during a moment when they required someone to fill a vacancy. The love bombing is not about you. It is about their inability to tolerate aloneness or ambiguity, and their need to construct a fantasy quickly enough that reality cannot intrude. They do not want to know you slowly because knowing someone slowly reveals incompatibilities. The goal is not intimacy, it is enmeshment before you can think clearly. The cost is not immediately visible. You do not lose yourself all at once. The erosion is incremental. First, you begin adjusting your behavior to maintain the intensity they established. You text back faster than feels natural because they have trained you to expect constant contact. You agree to plans that exhaust you because disappointing them feels catastrophic in a way you cannot name. You stop mentioning the things that made them slightly withdraw the one time you tested it. You notice that their warmth is conditional, that it appears when you conform and cools when you assert a boundary. But you tell yourself this is normal negotiation. It is not. What is happening is that you are learning to manage their emotional state, and the price of this is your access to your own. You become worried about their moods. You start to feel responsible for their happiness. The relationship that began with them centering you has inverted, and now you are the one doing the work of maintaining the fantasy they created. But there is a quiet advantage available if you are willing to stop performing reciprocity. You can observe, You can notice that their intensity was never sustainable, that it was a peak they cannot maintain now that the initial conquest phase is complete. The excessive affection begins to thin, the constant communication becomes sporadic. They seem distracted, less enchanted, vaguely disappointed, as though you have failed to live up to a standard you never agreed to. This is not your failure. This is the inevitable outcome of a dynamic that was never about you. They idealized a projection, and now they are realizing you are a person. And they do not want a person. They want the feeling they had when they were idealizing. So they start to withdraw, or they create distance, or they pick fights over small things, and you scramble to restore what you had at the beginning. But what you had at the beginning was not real. It was a performance, and the performance is over. The social consequences are subtle until they are not. If you stay, you will watch yourself become smaller. You will notice that your friends mention you seem different. You will catch yourself defending behavior you would find unacceptable in someone else's relationship. You will realize you are isolated in ways that happened gradually, that the intensity which felt like devotion also functioned as a barrier between you and other connections. You stopped seeing certain people because this person needed so much of your time. You stopped mentioning things they disliked because it was easier. You trained yourself into a smaller range of expression, and now when you try to expand again, you feel the resistance. Not from them, necessarily, but from the version of yourself you have become in proximity to them. You are not who you were before this started, and you cannot pretend the changes are growth. They are accommodations. They are concessions. They are what you gave up to keep someone who was never actually present. You begin to solidify into someone who knows this pattern, and that knowledge separates you from people who do not. You can see it now in others. You watch someone describe a new relationship and you hear the markers, the speed, the intensity, the mirroring, the future faking. You say nothing because they will not hear you. You know they are inside the same fog you were inside, and nothing you say will penetrate until they are ready to see. But you are no longer inside it, and that distance is permanent. You do not miss the intensity. You do not interpret slowness as disinterest anymore. You have recalibrated. You understand that real affection accumulates. It does not announce itself in the first week. It does not need to. The people who move fast are not more certain. They are more desperate. And desperation is not the same as desire, though it can feel identical until you learn the difference. The resolution is not dramatic. You do not confront them with a monologue about what they did. You do not need them to understand or admit anything. You simply stop participating. You stop answering the texts that come after days of silence. You stop explaining yourself. You stop hoping they will return to the person they were at the beginning. Because that person was a strategy, not a self. You let the relationship end in whatever quiet or loud way it ends, and you do not perform grief you do not feel. You feel relief. You feel the specific lightness that comes from escaping something that was tightening around you. And you do not tell many people about this, because most people will not understand why you are not sad. They will think you are cold or avoidant, but you are neither. You are simply someone who recognized a trap before it closed completely. What remains is a different set of standards. You do not trust intensity anymore. You trust consistency over time. You trust people who reveal themselves slowly, who do not perform certainty, who allow you to remain separate. You are no longer impressed by someone who wants to see you every day in the first month. You are cautious around people who have no friends from childhood, who speak about exes as though they were all irredeemably flawed, who need you to confirm their reality constantly. You have learned that people who cannot be alone are not safe to be with. You have learned that the ones who move fast are often running from something, and they will keep running once you are no longer new. You do not say this in public because it sounds cynical, but it is not cynical. It is pattern recognition. It is what you know now that you did not know before. You also understand that not everyone will arrive at this understanding. Some people will stay. They will marry the person who love-bombed them. They will spend years trying to return to the beginning, not realizing the beginning was bait. They will blame themselves for the loss of intensity, will try to become more interesting, more available, more perfect. And you cannot save them from that. You cannot explain what you see because they are not looking. They are still inside the story they were told, the one where they are special and chosen and loved in a way that transcends normal pacing. You were inside that story once. You know how convincing it is. But you also know what it costs, and you are no longer willing to pay. The final layer is that you become someone who can tolerate being misunderstood. People will accuse you of being afraid of commitment. They will say you are punishing someone new for what someone old did. They will tell you that you are overthinking, that you should give people a chance, that not everyone who is enthusiastic is dangerous, and they are not entirely wrong. But they are missing the distinction you have learned to see. Enthusiasm is not the problem. Intensity that bypasses getting to know someone is the problem. Declarations that arrive before evidence is the problem. The need to secure you before you have decided if you want to be secured is the problem. And you do not need to defend this to anyone. You simply hold the boundary and let people interpret it however they need to. You stop explaining yourself, because explanation implies you are asking for permission. You are not. You are operating from information that took pain to acquire, and you are not going to discard that information to make someone else comfortable. The people who understand will understand without convincing. The people who do not understand are often the ones who need you to override your instincts so they can continue behavior that serves them. And you are done serving other people's narratives at the expense of your own clarity. There is no moment where this knowledge makes you feel superior. It makes you feel tired sometimes. It makes dating harder in some ways because you cannot pretend anymore. You cannot get swept up the way you used to. You cannot mistake performance for presence. But you also do not waste years anymore. You do not end up trapped in situations that require you to become smaller. You do not lose time to people who were always going to leave once the novelty faded. And that is worth the loneliness that sometimes comes with seeing clearly. What you are left with is a kind of quiet certainty. Not about what will happen, but about what you will no longer allow. You will not be rushed. You will not be idealized. You will not accept affection that functions as control. You will not mistake someone's need for you as proof of your value. You know now that the people worth keeping are the ones who let you stay whole, who do not require you to merge, who can tolerate your autonomy without withdrawing. And those people are rare, but they exist. And you would rather wait for that than accept the frantic substitute that arrives too fast and asks for too much before you have even decided if you want to give anything at all.